Hello everyone. Welcome to this seventh Tech Espresso on behalf of XR Valley. My name is Pia, and welcome again to this monthly moment of gathering the XR community in Belgium, especially for those who are actively building XR technology. In this webinar, we're exploring the latest developments in the XR space, and not just the new tech, but also the opportunities and the challenges that come with it. In short, this is a space to discover, share, and connect with others who are shaping XR in all kinds of ways. Welcome. Today, we are joined by Ori Inbar, the founder of Augmented World Expo, or AWE in short, which you might have heard of. And he will be talking about the state of XR in 2025. With a perspective of 2 decades already in XR, Ori will share his view of the current state of the XR industry with data, including market size, adoption rates among enterprises, consumers, and investors, as well as other key trends in the spatial computing industry. And he will attempt the very burning question, of course, is XR ready to go mainstream? As usual, you can drop your questions in the chat box that you see next to the stream here. So please do so during the keynote, and we will address these after the presentation. So without further ado, I'm inviting Ori on stage. Please enjoy the show. There we go.
Hey everybody, thank you, Pia. Thank you all for joining us today. It's wonderful to be here at XR Valley with the Tech Espresso. I have an important message to share with you today. So let's get right into it. Since 2008, when I co-founded Augmento, a startup for AR games, and later AWE, on a mission to advance AR and VR and bring it to everyone, I've been championing this idea that XR will shape the future. Well, today I have a different message for you. XR is not the future. XR is the present. In my 2 decades in XR, I've never dared to say this, but this year, when I look at the state of XR, the incredible energy and progress, I feel confident I can finally say it. XR is going mainstream. And I know some of you industry veterans are thinking right now, wait, what? I mean, we've been in XR for years and we're still struggling to grow our businesses. Well, I hear you, my friends. And before anything else, let me first take a moment to say thank you. Thanks to everyone who helped advance the industry to where it is today. I think you can give yourself a big tap on the back. You deserve it. Because yes, XR is hard. It was literally the theme for my opening keynote at AWE in 2023. And it's been hard for over 50 years, since its very beginning in 1968, when Ivan Sutherland showed the first working demo of a head-mounted display. Ivan, considered by many the founder of spatial computing, captured the essence of spatial computing in a very simple definition. The image of an object changes in the same way the real object changes, with similar motions of the head. In other words, computing imitates real life. That's a concept I would bet my career on, and I think some of you have as well. Why? Because humans are biologically spatial. That's how we interact with the world, and so should computing. However, in 1968, there was a fork in the road. That same year, the mother of all demos was presented with the first mouse and keyboard and a 2D screen, and history decided that 2D computing should be the mainstream. And since then, a few smart and extremely tenacious men and women did not wait for history to fix itself. They did not wait for Moore's law to catch up. They worked really, really hard to advance XR technology. They were way ahead of their time. So in 2024, we decided it's finally time to recognize them, and we created the XR Hall of Fame and inducted the first 101 pioneers from the first 50 years of XR. These pioneers laid the foundations for the XR industry. We all stand on the shoulders of these giants. So give them all a big round of applause from wherever you are. But in fact, Almost everyone working in XR today is a pioneer. It's still the early days, and you stand to be inducted into the XR Hall of Fame in the coming years. So please keep doing what you're doing. And I urge you all to explore the list of the 101 Hall of Famers that were inducted so far on this webpage. They believed spatial computing is more natural than flat computing. They believe an inflection point would come, that one day XR devices would replace smartphones and computers. I believe it too. In fact, in 2013, I made this simple chart, but pretty controversial. How about you all? Do you all believe that such an inflection point is inevitable, where one day XR glasses or devices outsell smartphones? If so, make some noise from wherever you are. I want to hear it. But the question is, does anyone dare to say when this might happen? Well, in that same presentation, I was foolish enough to attempt a prediction, and that was a complete screw up. I predicted that 1 billion shipments will be here by 2023. Well, that was off by a mile. But I learned my lesson. Sometimes when it comes to predicting when XR glasses go mainstream, it's probably better to keep it to yourself. But then in 2024, I had a good feeling about how the year started. That is with one exception. Bob Stone, an XR pioneer from the UK since 1987 and an XR Hall of Famer, protested when I said that with his trademark rolling eyes emoji. Every bloody year is a breakthrough year for XR. And you know what? He's right. Here's a magazine, VR World, from 30 years ago, claiming pretty much the same thing. VR goes mass market. There were great tools, cool new lightweight headsets, arcade systems, everything was there. But we all know what happened in the 90s. But again, 2024 turned out to be a true breakthrough year for XR. Maybe not in revenue, maybe we don't all feel it in our pockets, but the pace of innovation has reached a new level of intensity. The XR race exploded in full force. And actually, we have here a little live coverage from the XR racetrack. Let's hear it.
Gentlemen, hold on to your hats because we're off to the races. Apple rockets out of the gate with a bold move. They launch the Vision Pro and boom, they're setting a brand new standard for mixed reality. The fans are on their feet and it looks like Apple's got an early lead in this fast-paced XR showdown. But look out, here comes Meta, the reigning champion. They aren't about to sit back and let Apple run away with this one. Meta teases us with details of their upcoming Quest 3 headset and the crowd goes wild. Apple's Vision Pro hits the track, sparking a frenzy among developers, but Meta's hot on their heels. This race is just getting started. But hang on, X-Real's making their move, bursting onto the scene with the X-Real Air Ultra 2. They're in this race to win. Wait a minute, Snap has just entered the race with a brand new version of Spectacles, adding yet another thrilling twist to this high-stakes showdown. And here comes Meta again. They're pulling out all the stops. Meta storms back, launching the Quest 3S, which is officially the most affordable mixed reality headset on the track. And wait, there's more! Meta has just thrown down the gauntlet with a prototype of their glasses. They're pulling ahead, ladies and gents, and Apple's in the rear view mirror. Could Meta be pushing Apple to rethink their play? Meanwhile, Sony's joining the party with a big swing toward the productivity crowd. They've got a new spatial mixed reality headset lined up, set to launch at year's end. But the race isn't slowing down, folks. HTC and Pico are stepping up. They're a little behind, but they're making up ground, pushing the limits with advanced mixed. Samsung is still stretching and warming up. They're cooking up something big with Qualcomm and Google, waiting for the perfect moment to jump into the action. They may be keeping a low profile, but don't count them out. When they enter the race, they'll bring the heat. It's a nail biter as we approach the final lap. Meta holds the lead. Apple's breathing down their neck, and HTC and Pico are neck and neck in the midfield. Sony's making their move, aiming for a late game splash. Who's going to pull out the big win? In the fast-paced world of XR, it's anyone's game, folks. Buckle up. It's going to be a photo finish.
Yeah, can you feel the intensity now? A little bit of Americana for you guys. But I think this race is really good for the market. It's great for consumers. And just so you understand how fast this is moving, since this animation was created just 4 or 5 months ago, here's what happened. Samsung is no longer stretching and warming up. It announced its new Muhan headset, and we saw it actually live at TED last week. Also, their new smart glasses may be released this year. And Google, of course, announced Android XR, a huge accelerator for the XR industry. And then a bunch of others have announced also their AI glasses, their smart glasses. And at CES this January, 16 new smart glasses were launched, a mix of AI and AR glasses with or without displays, and even one with a clip-on. So people, let's stop for a second and appreciate what's already here. As someone who has been in it for a couple of decades, I can assure you that it's good enough. The hardware is good and is widely available. It's good enough for plenty of use cases of what we need today. And XR content creation tools have matured. And with AI, building immersive experiences is a lot faster and easier than ever. XR is indeed going mainstream. And when I say XR is going mainstream, I don't mean that the hardware is perfect or that we're all rich now. It means that we've turned a page, that we're in a different stage. And it's not just a feeling. Here are some undeniable truths. According to AWE's home analyst, Artillery Intelligence, XR is on track to reach $29 billion this year. It's becoming a giant industry. Just so that you get a sense of how big it is, it's actually bigger than the film industry this year. And it's growing fast. IDC is even more bullish. They claim that next year it will grow at 38.6% for the next 2 years. So after AI, it's the fastest growing tech sector. And on the hardware front, in the past 20 months, we've seen so many great new headsets hit the market. They're getting smaller, better, with improved mixed reality capabilities. And it's not slowing down. Again, it's not yet fully reflected in unit sales and revenue, but the install base is growing. You can see we have now 33.5 million people with headsets out there. And perhaps the most important signal from the market leader is that in the last quarter of 2024, Meta sold the most XR headsets ever. And a new hot category is emerging, a new breed of cool-looking AI and AR smart glasses. And there was a surprising hit last year with a big jump in sales. Just look at this jump from 23 to 24. I'm not making this up. This is all in this legit report. And like we saw, big tech is are locked in a race to lead this market. Each player is pushing the other to be better, to refocus on their strengths, and they're all investing billions. Meta is actually on track to invest $100 billion in their Reality Labs XR. Well, with the one exception is Microsoft, which is currently missing in action in this race. And when it comes to user adoption, mobile AR usage in the US, and this is a bit of a US biased view, has been growing steadily and is at 35% of the population. It's used for games, for social, for navigation, for cosmetics. And it gets really interesting when you look at Gen Z, where almost 92% are into shopping with AR. VR usage is not far behind at 25% of the US populations. And it's growing fast, especially where it matters with the next generation. 1 in 4 teenagers in the US plays in VR. And we heard that a record 13 million new young users were added in 2024 because kids get it and they will play VR their entire lives. On the enterprise front, almost every single Fortune 1000 company has adopted XR. And for most of these businesses, they're beyond the initial stage of what is this technology good for. They're going beyond pilots and are looking to scale it across the enterprise because they're seeing proven ROI with their projects. And here's just a list of enterprises who attended a recent XR event called Industrial Immersive in Texas. So you can see that enterprise is really a force to be reckoned with. And if you look at how it translates into market share, enterprise revenue is currently over 70% of the entire XR market. So of course, startups who seek short-term revenue would definitely want to target the enterprise market today. Now, public awareness and pop culture is another critical measure of mainstream adoption, right? We all know culture can make or break a product. We all remember this product the XR product, right? Product that crashed because of cultural backlash. This means it's time for my segment, Debunking XR Myths, Google Glass. So the truth is Google Glass was not a bad product. Consumers were not ready for it, but it enjoyed a nice, productive life, delivering hands-free instructions for workers in warehouses and factories. And in fact, that same year, there were many XR glasses available in the market. All right, back to the present. Let's look at Christmas 2024. Christmas is always a great checkpoint for what's the coolest gadget that people give as gifts. Were people excited about XR this year? I mean, no one probably wanted to find under their tree a chat GPT, right? And based on these reactions, it feels like mainstream is there. So what are some of the other XR highlights in culture this year?
A stand your ground case like you have never seen before.
The defense turning to virtual reality to show the judge what they really claim happened.
That's right, VR in the courtroom, the most conservative places of all.
Virtual reality headset.
These people are coming into his space, right?
And he's backing up.
And he's backing
so
up.
as not to be injured like his wife.
For an immersive experience.
That's right. VR has now the power to make justice. Also, the iconic queen of fitness from the 80s, Jane Fonda, is back to promote exercising in VR in 2025, together with a retro video. And how about a Michelin star chef pairing an 8-course meal with a VR experience in New York City? Another thing is, what XR product got a Super Bowl commercial, the biggest sports event in the US? Well, AI smart glasses. Because like we said before, it's a new hot category. And I believe XR is the killer app for AI.
Hey, Meta, what's this?
This piece is called Comedian by Mauricio Catalan, valued at $6.2 million. Which one of you is real?
Which one of you is real?
Good question. It makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Yeah, and together, they're great to help you learn about art. Now let's look at investments. Well, there was a significant downturn in 2023 and a big part of 24. Investments in XR startups were starting to pick up. But in the last few months, I think we're seeing that it's challenging really for the entire investment sector. But on the bright side, Andreessen Horowitz, probably the most influential investor in the world, is bullish on XR. They see dozens of developers making over $10 million each on the stores with small teams and no funding. And they claim it's among the most underrated markets today. In fact, XR was featured in their latest report, Big Ideas in Tech 2025, where they say XR devices are now widely available and there's an increased developer activity on spatial computing platforms. And that is especially promising in verticals that involve a lot of physical world activity. For that reason, we see thousands of iOS and Android designers, developers, hackers shifting to spatial. We see them flocking to XR hackathons around the world. By my estimate, there are now 2 million XR developers in the world. And the platforms, Meta, Google, Snap, Apple, are starting to compete on these platforms, on these developers. And now, what's your guess? Are developers building for the Apple Vision Pro? That means it's time for another segment of Debunking XR Myths. If you read the news, you would think Vision Pro is a failure. But reporters are those who fail to understand that the Vision Pro is clearly meant at this point for developers, so they can build content for this completely new platform. And yeah, it's not selling like the iPhone yet, but there are currently 6 times more developers on the Vision Pro than the iPhone had in its first year. And moreover, if you look at the impact of the Vision Pro on the market, it's been very significant. I mean, just look at these two devices. Can you tell the difference between these two? Well, I actually switched the labels. This is the correct label. And if you like this game, we can go on and on. Here's another pair of glasses comparing each other, again, with labels switched. I can go on and on. There are so many headsets that now look like the Vision Pro. Remember the iPhone moment? All right, so I think we looked at a bunch of indicators that are pointing to the fact that indeed XR is going mainstream. But XR is really a spectrum of product categories. So which part of the XR spectrum are truly going mainstream? Let's map the different device categories based on their progress from prototype, early adoption, niche, emerging popularity, and all the way to mainstream. And by the way, mainstream is typically defined when a product is reaching 25% or more of a certain target market. So mobile AR is now available pretty much to everyone with smartphones, so it's really deep into mainstream. VR headsets are now found under many Christmas trees, and it's a reasonable gift level price point used by a quarter of the US population. Smart glasses with no displays, so the camera plus AI, are emerging in popularity and are becoming a hit with consumers. Next category is high fidelity mixed reality devices like the Vision Pro or the Quest 3, and also the upcoming Samsung device, which these are moving fast to the right. Next is heads-up display glasses like Google Glass, RealWear, Vuzix, which now have a strong but still niche position in enterprises. And the more bulky, full-featured AR glasses like the HoloLens or Magic Leap are actually taking a step back at this point as they make room for new full-featured AR glasses that look almost like regular glasses, like Snap Spectacles and X-Real. They are very promising and could move real fast. And finally, full-featured AR with a wide field of view that look like regular glasses, like the Meta's Orion prototype. They give tremendous hope to this category, but they're still a few years away. So we can see that some of the XR categories are already in the mainstream, while others are closing in pretty quickly. Another big question around mainstream adoption is, how often do you use XR, right? So if you're using it once a week, make some noise or just write in the chat. And when you use it, for how long do you use it? I hope that not more than 1 hour or 2, which is really the recommended time to use these devices. And the thing is that, our industry is obsessed with the elusive all-day face device. And until this obsession is met, for many people, it feels like, we're not really there. But I think it's a worthy goal for the far future, but we need to recalibrate our expectations for the now. And I suggest a more practical obsession, which I think is still awesome for where we are. The idea that we should wear for a purpose. Like sunglasses. You wear them to block the sun and look cool. Or reading glasses to read. Or protective glasses when you do some work with your hands. In the same way, XR devices, you want to wear them for a purpose. You put smart glasses on when you need a live translation or want to look cool. Or a VR headset to exercise or play. Or maybe a mixed reality headset when you want to learn a new skill. So I think this is a great phase, and we're here right now. Like I said, XR is not the future, it's the present. But to reach the mainstream, we need one more thing. We need builders of all kinds, developers, designers, entrepreneurs, to produce eclectic content that is relevant to every single person on Earth. Forget about the killer app. The platform itself is the killer app, and it's an enabler for every other niche app until we conquer everyone out there. And that's why this is the year of the XR Master Builder. What are master builders? They're not necessarily experts in XR, but they're masters of their domain, a certain use case, or maybe a passion. And the most important trait of these people is knowing their audience so well that when they build an XR app, it feels like a natural extension of their world. Case in point, meet Simon Rico. He's a designer, he's a huge fan of Formula One, and he had never built anything in XR. But when he saw the Vision Pro and its potential, he decided to build a spatial experience for fans like himself, so he can enjoy F1 races in real time that was never possible before. And now it's amazing. F1 fans are buying this $3,500 device for the sole purpose of using his app. And this is a real comment you see here. And by the way, he saw hundreds of comments like that from F1 fans. So it's time for the master builders in every domain or every use case or vertical to jump in. And the good news is that I'm seeing lots of founder energy in the XR space, which is awesome. So what could go wrong? Privacy. You know, corporations are already gathering tons of information about what people do online. But so far, they're much more restricted in tracking what people do offline. Until now, right? With XR, when everything we do in the real world is captured and analyzed on camera, privacy becomes an even bigger concern. And when you add AI to the mix, it could be lethal. It could become the perfect manipulation engine. So how can we address these very real privacy concerns? Regulations definitely makes sense. Building privacy into the product, that's a great approach. And I think maybe the biggest thing is to change our business model so they don't rely on advertising. So there's a lot of work to be done. And that brings me to finally address the elephant in the room. AI is currently sucking a lot of the attention and money away from XR. And that has to change. We all know AI has mastered language, but the fun of chatting with a bot by typing is kind of wearing off. Prompts are just not that exciting. So what's a better interface to access the powers of AI? So far, the reaction to some of the new crop of AR hardware has been pretty brutal. So what's the alternative? You know, we've already seen how AI makes XR better, faster, and easier. But we've also talked about how XR gives AI the ideal interface. I think it's a love story. It's really the perfect couple. Or to be even more blunt, XR is the killer app for AI. But there's actually more to it. If you think about AI, you know, it's currently running out of content on the internet to train its models. It needs access to real-world data. And for that, it needs XR. So XR is not only the killer app for AI, XR will save AI by giving it an interface into the real world. It's the only way for AI to keep getting smarter. And it's also the only way for us to keep humans in the loop so that AI doesn't take over. And you know, everyone is now talking about agentic AI or AI agents, but instead, I think we should think about spatial agents, humans augmented with an intelligent spatial layer. I think investors need to understand that, and businesses need to understand that there's no AI without XR. So I asked an AI image generator, what would it look like when XR goes mainstream? And this is what it generated. It's a little weird. I don't think AI gets exactly how XR is going to impact the world yet. And if you want to see it in action, if you want to see how XR goes mainstream, especially if you are an XR builder or a business, I invite you all to the next AW event this June in California. It's the world's largest XR event with 5,000 attendees, hundreds of exhibitors and builders, 400 speakers. Or if you can travel to the US this year, we'll come to you with United XR in December in Brussels. So currently, you know, the US event is our biggest one compared to Europe, but I think one day, perhaps the event in Europe, the United XR, will be as big as the US because the European market should be as big as the American market. If you want to chat with me, happy to be contacted at ori@awxr.com. You'll feel spatial, I promise. And that was the state of XR in 2025. Thank you all, and let's take some questions.
Hi. Ori, hello. Welcome. Thank you so much for your keynote. It was really interesting, I have to say. It definitely changed my perspective that I had on whether we're mainstream, yes or no. I was wondering, like, actually, yeah, XR is quite mainstream already, but we're not talking about that it is mainstream already. Like you said, it seems like every year we're still questioning the utility of this and when it will go mainstream. And I sort of feel like maybe this is purely based on feelings, so correct me if I'm wrong. It seems to go sort of slower than, let's say, adoption of the iPhone or like watching videos on your own devices. Is that a correct observation, or do you think it's actually kind of similar and we're just not seeing it sort of in the right light?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think that we're all kind of debating this every day. I think first, um, every year, we have there's the pace of innovation is so fast that we get used to it. So we get
Right.
used to all kind of new things, new devices every year, and we never have a chance to just stop for a second and look at what we have there and really appreciate it. And that's why I use the it's good enough. It may not sound great, but that's where we are. It's good for everything that we need today, and I think that's what we need to how we need to think about it. But regarding your point on adoption of smartphones, it really depends on where you start counting. If you look at some of the the first smartphones in the early 2000s, it took a while. So you
Yes.
had the BlackBerry, which was used by a kind of a niche audience. Lots of salespeople were using it, but it wasn't mainstream. And then there were some different attempts until the iPhone came out. And even the first year of the iPhone, it wasn't as big as we all think it is, right? It still took a couple of years until they had the store in place, until it really became ubiquitous. And then, of course, Android joined that, and we had this explosion. So it doesn't have to follow the same curve, the same crazy curve that we saw in 28 or 29 with the smartphones. It's a different device. The difference is such a big difference from what we've had before, from 2D computing to spatial computing. It's probably going to take a bit longer.
Right.
But I think I feel like we're at the point where it's like probably 2006 in smartphone world, right? So it's really close to a device that all of a sudden can explode. But again, my main point is, let's not wait. What we have now is great.
Absolutely.
It's good, again, good enough, maybe not great, but it's good enough, and it can be used for a lot of things. And if we build content for these devices, more people will see the value of it, more people will use it, and that will bring in even more investments to help accelerate the growth of it, right? So it's kind of a virtuous cycle that we have to feed it, and we cannot afford to wait any longer.
Exactly. The snowball is rolling and it will accelerate probably at a given moment that we'll definitely be able to see it. Let's look at some questions from the audience. I'm just scrolling through the chat here. Stein asked whether you have tried the Meta Orion.
Actually, I have not. Didn't have the chance to do it. I read every single commentary about it, and it's really amazing. I mean, people are really blown away by it. Of course, the problem is that it's not ready for the market. It takes about $10,000 to build it, and it's probably a little sensitive. So it cannot just used every day all the time. So I think what everybody is saying is that it's a few years away. But what it did, Apple was working on smart glasses, somewhat similar to that, and they decided that tech is not ready. So that's why they decided to ship the Vision Pro. And by the way, it's funny because they shipped it as an AR device, although of course it's a VR device with pass-through that gives you the feeling of AR. Because Tim Cook is known to be 100% focused on shipping, an AR device, right? So the fact that Orion was presented made Apple all of a sudden rethink their plan and maybe accelerate their work on the AR device, on the AR glasses. And that's true across the board. Google is now back in the game and working really hard on these glasses, Samsung and a bunch of others. So I think the fact that we're showing to the market, Meta is showing to the market such advanced devices, really helping everybody move faster forward.
Exactly. Yeah, similar to the Apple Vision Pro, right? It has the best of the best, and it sort of set the bar there, but it helps working towards that and also building for that to see what's possible. Stein, I would say if you have used it and would like to share your experience, please drop it in the chat and we can chat further. Let's see. Anything else? Chris asked, do you have any insights into the breakdown of market growth across different sectors for enterprise?
Yeah, so I guess you mean between like different verticals.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, so I think it's what's interesting is that we're seeing the adoption more with horizontal use cases than verticals. And what I mean by that is training is something that we see being adopted in every single industry. Of course, in manufacturing, where we see big adoption of XR and oil and gas and education and so on and so forth. So it's really probably the #1 use case out there. Last night I spent almost the whole night reviewing the submissions for the Augie Awards. It's kind of our awards for the AW event, which, by the way, we had the record number, 460 submissions. And the top category was training. I think there were over 40 submissions for training. And that just shows, how much is really happening and why, businesses see the value in that use case. The second big use case, I think, is becoming around digital twin. So the ability to basically create a 3D digital twin of your business. It could be a factory, it could be any facility or any venue that you have, and use that for simulation of different things, for inspections, also for training, right? So it's becoming almost like a must for every business. But if you ask me, about the kind of the key verticals, I would say manufacturing, and especially automotive and aerospace and defense, are probably the biggest adopters. Oil and gas is pretty big. Healthcare, I think healthcare is one of probably the earliest verticals that has been adopting it, because in certain areas, the XR has a huge value that cannot be achieved in any other way. So it's been there. It's not as big in terms of revenue yet, but it's definitely a significant sector. And I'd be happy to share with you, there's some charts that can show you how all the verticals stack up in a pie chart.
That would be interesting. Yeah. If you have such resources, feel free to share with me, and I can share later through email with everyone that was here that might be interested.
Happy to do it.
I think, Chris, I think that answered your question. If there's anything else, let us know. Yes, Chris would like the pie chart, so please share it with us. That would be cool. And then Cedric is asking about AI, that AI is pulling a lot of the investments, and what are the ventures that are still able to attract funds? If you have any insights on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a secret, right? All investors are currently looking into AI. And I don't think, we can change their perception, because, investors, you would think of them, as some of the smartest people, but they always follow the hype. Because FOMO is bigger than anything, right? I mean, I don't want to miss the next Facebook or the next Google, right? So if there's hype around AI, they will all flock into AI. So what I see a lot of the AR and VR smart startups doing, which is smart, is looking at how to reposition their company as not just an XR company, but XR and AI company. And in some cases, even leading with AI and kind of delivering the message around immersive and XR as a secondary message. So that's kind of a way to bypass this crazy focus on AI that we see with investors. And by the way, also businesses. I think businesses are now using all their IT investments to shift to AI. And sometimes they're missing the idea of that AI cannot be on its own. It has to come with XR. And for me, that's my biggest mission right now with investors, is to make sure they understand that there's no AI without XR. No one, just wants a prompt to use AI. They want to use it, as again, like a spatial agent metaphor, where it's augmenting people with a layer that gives them the intelligence to do anything better in the real world.
Exactly. It's about removing more and more of the boundaries between the technology and the human, I guess. And that's just another, layer or another
keeping the humans in the center. That's
exactly.
A lot of people fear that AI will take over and will take the jobs, and which is probably true to a certain degree. But I think the way to mitigate against that is to always combine AI with XR, so that the human element is always at the center.
Correct. And I fully agree on that. It's really important to keep track of that and keep that at its reality. Let's see. Chris has another question. Will those hundreds of submissions for the awards be shared somewhere? It will be interesting to see what people are working on across the world.
Absolutely. It's actually all available right now
Awesome.
on our website. And give me a second. I will share with you the actual link. So it's not just available, it's also available for voting.
Cool.
So go to, oh wait, no. The link is not on the website yet. You know what? Let me share it with you right after. But if you go to our Augie's page on the website, which is here, we'll have that link available shortly. Still kind of doing some fine tuning to make sure all the submissions are in the right categories and so on. So it should be there shortly.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. I think that's much appreciated indeed. Awesome. Let's see. I don't see any other questions coming in. I think I wrote a couple of questions, but they have actually all been answered already. So thank you so much for that. This was really insightful. I would say if the audience has any other questions or indeed would like to chat with you further, they can drop either you or us a message and we'll connect you after this webinar. So
Absolutely.
yeah, it was great to have you here. Thank you so much, Ori, for sharing your views on this. And I'm sure we'll be talking again on this later and years, hopefully after.
And we'll see you in Brussels in December.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Maybe also in the US, that would be great, but Brussels definitely. I can pinky promise that. Yeah, I would like to thank also everybody here joining for today, and a couple of messages to share on the administration on this. If you have any topics that you would like to see discussed in these kinds of webinars, you are always free to reach out to us and suggest topics or speakers. Good to know also that this recording will be available on our YouTube next week. You will be receiving a link to that in the email if you were here. So feel free to share this also with others afterwards. And last but not least, the next Tech Espresso will be on May 15th. And in that edition, we will be chatting with Tom Hamil, which is the founder of the PAC Studio in Belgium. And we will be talking about how XR is transforming broadcasting. I'm going to drop the link to register already for that in the chat so you can join. And yeah, I guess that was it for today. Thanks again a lot, Ori, and everyone that was here. And I hope you learned something today and you enjoyed this webinar, and hope to see you in the next edition. Enjoy your evening and see you soon. Bye-bye.